Please grab breakfast, grab a seat. We're about to get started. We've never been this quiet in the history of the chamber. That is amazing to me. Are we okay to get started? Awesome, I just didn't see that. So thank you for joining us this morning. It's so great to see everyone in person. My name is Dave Markarian. I'm the incoming chair of the board and a very enthusiastic cheerleader for this organization. I use this organization to make friends and give back, and it's great. I'd like to welcome you to this month's Business Before Hours, and this is our special legislative update. And if you don't mind, as is our routine, we will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Where's our flag? Behind me? All right. This is hard. It's already gotten tough. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, have your seat. Take your seats, please. Before I hand it over to our board chair, Stephanie Mitrione, I'd like to take a minute to tell you a little bit about one of my passions, the Government Affairs Committee of this chamber. It's made up of representatives of all 10 towns and municipalities, from Mangonia Park in the south to Tequesta in the north. We are honored every month to have mayors, town council, town managers join us, share with us what's going on in their towns, share ideas with one another. We also have a full complement of our local business community and those that devote their lives to education and making it better. And it is almost like that park in England or a town square that we're more familiar with, where views are heard, concerns are expressed, ideas are contemplated, and the most amazing thing of all is the ladies and gentlemen that join us that are elected officials. They give of themselves unselfishly. They manage to compromise. They manage to reach a budget. They are truly the most remarkable people in our town, and it's our privilege to watch them work, to be a part of this committee. It's an open committee, which means if you're a current member or a future member of the chamber, this is the place to be. It happens once a month. It's wee early, but even in pandemic, we've had record numbers. In fact, some of the information that we've gotten, thanks to Todd, the county, Ed, has helped unite us and inform us and prepare us for, what we've just gone through. So, with that, I wanted to one more thing. If you'd like any information on that committee, please contact Brittany Cartwright, our membership director. And it is my sincere pleasure to now welcome the Chamber's Chair of the Board of Directors, Ms. Stephanie Mitrione. We did it. Still good. I have my own. No, I have it. Oh, sorry.
Dave never goes by the script, so it's an ongoing joke. Anyway, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? All right, it's truly great to be here with all of you this morning, as well as to reach you all virtually. Thank you to our friends at 1331 Creative. The Chamber is proud to partner with our friends at AeroClean to make this morning's event a clean air event. The air that you are breathing right now is about as clean as you can get. AeroClean is a new technology company headquartered locally right down the road here in Palm Beach Gardens, providing their Pergo air purification machines to ensure that we can all breathe easy and enjoy our events this morning. The machines you see here in the room today use HEPA filtration and powerful UV light to provide medical-grade protection from airborne viruses and bacteria. Learn more about Pergo by visiting aeroclean.com. Events like today would not be possible without the support of our community partners. Today's presenting sponsors are Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors, and Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center. I'd like to introduce the president of the Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors, Jared Lowe. Jared Lowe, broker with RE/MAX Ultimate Realty in Southeast Florida, is a proud veteran of the United States Marine Corps and former law enforcement officer in the Orlando area, serving his country and community for almost 10 years. However, he found his true calling in helping families achieve the American dream of home ownership by becoming a realtor. Jared hit the ground running in 2010 and quickly became engaged as a volunteer leader of his local and state Realtors Association, where he first became committed to defending the rights and privileges of his fellow real estate professionals, as well as the communities that they serve. Now, over 10 years later, Jared is the president of Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors, the third largest local realtor board in the nation. He believes now more than ever in the power of collaboration among realtors and other professionals in the industry, and is truly passionate about helping make decisions that shape our association and provide the greatest impact and value to its members, as well as the consumers that realtors serve. Please welcome the president of Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors, Jared Lowe.
Wow, I don't know where they got that bio. It was a bit long, so my apologies. I am now actually the immediate past president of the Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors. Unfortunately, our president wasn't able to make it here this morning. But the Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors, we are the premier realtor association serving South Florida. We have over 37,000 members across 3 counties and 130 miles of coastline. Now more than ever, our association is truly committed to providing our members with innovative tools and resources so that they can be the voice for real estate here in South Florida. You know, realtors don't just sell homes. We help build communities. We fight and advocate for private property rights and issues affecting the real estate industry, but more importantly, the communities that we serve each and every day. We're truly thankful for the partnerships we have with our local community organizations such as the Chamber, but also the relationships we have with the local municipalities and our elected officials. Speaking of elected officials, I know we have several in the room. I see a table full over here. And I just want to thank you all, not only for being here with us this morning, but your constant dedication and support in representing us up in Tallahassee and here home in Palm Beach County. So thank you all so much for everything that you do. I know all of you in the room probably know this, but we have some true rock stars that represent us up in Tallahassee, and we're really, really thankful for everything that you all do. Thank you. I know all of you know this, but we are your go-to resource, so should you or any of your staff ever have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to us anytime. We'll be there for a resource for you. I also want to thank the Palm Beach County North Chamber for organizing this morning's legislative update. As always, CEO Noel Martinez and your staff, you always do a wonderful job. Thank you all so much for putting together this event this morning. Our association is truly proud to partner with the Palm Beach North Chamber of Commerce as trustees and sponsor for this event today. So on behalf of the Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors and our 37,000 members, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak here this morning. The last time I spoke live, I'm pretty sure, was this event last year, a little bit rusty, but thank you all for joining us here this morning, and enjoy your legislative update. Thank you.
Thanks again to Broward, Palm Beaches, and St. Lucie Realtors for your support. Next, I would like to introduce the Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center. Since opening their doors in 1968 to perform the first open heart surgery in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast in 1983, their 199-bed advanced tertiary medical center has expanded over the years to offer a full spectrum of healthcare services. Some of their most notable services include their Heart and Vascular Institute, emergency services, orthopedics and joint replacement, certified primary stroke center, urology, general and robotic surgery, diagnostic imaging, and rehabilitation services. Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center places a strong emphasis on patient-centered care and are dedicated to optimal health through clinical excellence and unparalleled compassion. As Palm Beach County grows, Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center is committed to introducing new services and programs to better serve the community's needs. They are proud to continue achieving excellence nearly 50 years later. Please turn your attention to the screens to learn more about Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center.
At Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center, we know that a relaxing, home-like atmosphere can enhance healing. That's why we have redesigned our orthopedic unit to help our patients recover from surgery. Our new unit features 15 private rooms with sofa beds for family and visitors, a fully equipped gym for physical and occupational rehabilitation, and a spacious patient, family, and visitor dining area. Plus, our experienced nurses provide one-on-one personalized care, helping you feel at home while you recover. Start healing at Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center.
Thanks again to Palm Beach Gardens Medical Center and CEO Teresa Urquhart for your continued support. Next, we'd like to thank today's corporate sponsors. Thank you to the Hanley Foundation, Florida Power and Light Company, and the Palm Beach Kennel Club. Lastly, we would like to thank Gary Lesser and the team at Lesser Landy & Smith for being today's official coffee sponsor. Now, it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage our President and CEO, Noel Martinez.
Thank you, Steph, Dave. Thank you so much for kicking things off this morning, and welcome, everyone. Welcome to our annual legislative update. How great is this to be in person with about 170 people here? Isn't this amazing? So we have a great program in store for you today, but before we get into that, we have some special guests that I want to make sure we acknowledge. So let's start off with our Chamber Board of Directors. We have a bunch of them here tonight, and I can't thank you enough for your continued support and dedication to this organization. So will all the board members that are present please stand to be recognized? Next, I'd like to recognize our local elected officials. We have some of our favorite elected officials here this morning, and I want to make sure that they get a chance to say hello. If you're an elected official, please stand and simply state your name and position in office. I'd like to ask our delegation to please remain seated because we're going to give you a chance to say hello here in a second, okay? So if you wouldn't mind stand to be recognized. Let's start with Commissioner Marino. Molly? Great, thank you. And I also want to acknowledge our former state CFO, Jeff Atwater. Jeff, why don't you stand and wave? Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here this morning. Now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our ambassadors. Our ambassadors do so much to welcome our new members of the Chamber. They help our new and existing members maximize their experience to meet their goals and objectives. Several of them are here this morning. So will all the ambassadors please stand to be recognized? So now we're thrilled to announce our newest members for the month of June. Please turn your attention to the screen as we have included each individual member, whether a new young professional, a new trustee, or a general member. We're thrilled to have you join the Chamber, and we encourage you to participate in upcoming events and get involved in a committee. There's no better way to get engaged in the business community than to be an active member of this organization. Let's give our new members a big round of applause. Next, I'd like to acknowledge our members who have reached a special anniversary with the Chamber during the month of June. Please turn your attention to the screens for our members celebrating their anniversaries. Celebrating 10 years, we've got Flower Kingdom, Nova Southeastern University, Wealth with Wisdom Advisors, say that 10 times really fast, and of course, Healthcare Imaging. We congratulate you all on your anniversary and thank you all for your support over the years. We hope you enjoy your gift. You should have received an email with a special coupon for a free bundt cake from our friends at Nothing Bundt Cakes. Reach out to Brittany Cartwright, our Director of Membership Development, if you have not received that email. And finally, you all know I love my team here at the Chamber, and they work tirelessly to ensure that the Chamber is the best that it can be. I could not do what we do without them. We have 3 new additions to the team. Of course, we have Alexis Lockhart. Why don't you wave over there, Alexis, and say hello. Alexis is our new communications coordinator, and she's going to be working with Marley and Bianca. We also have Joseph Garcia in the back as our new membership development manager. And she didn't know I was going to do this because she doesn't officially start until Monday, but we've got Kathleen. Why don't you stand up and wave? This is Kathleen Dempsey, and she is going to be our new Director of Community Engagement, and she will be working with all our municipalities. You will all get to meet her. She starts on Monday. So I want to thank you all. Welcome to the team, all 3 of you. I'm so excited to have you on board. If you haven't had a chance to introduce yourself, please do. They are absolutely dynamic, great additions to the team, super talented. I can't be more excited to have them on the team, so thank you. Okay, so let's get into the program. It's a pleasure to introduce our moderator for today. Rachel Bonlaren is the Executive Director of Community Engagement and Special Assistant to the President at Palm Beach State College. Her primary functions consist of serving as a community contact for the President, assisting with the college's public relations, marketing, and outreach functions, providing direction for the comprehensive community engagement of the college, and serving as the college's registered lobbyist and government relations director. Prior joining the Palm Beach State College, you might remember, she was also the director for the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation. She is currently the chair of our Government Affairs Committee, sits on the Birth to 22 Steering Committee, and the Girls Coordinating Council. Rachel also is past chair of the Association of Florida Colleges Legislative Committee. Please give a warm welcome to Rachel Bonlaren.
Good morning, everyone. What a great showing this morning. Thank you all for being here. This is absolutely fantastic and a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you, Noel. It is truly a pleasure to be here. It is extremely important to have these types of discussions because it is imperative to hear from our legislative delegation members, to hear what goes on in Tallahassee, to hear really what the primary functions and basically what we are all involved in, right, in some way, shape, or form. This actually kind of brings me back to my delegation days. I was looking around the room and saw pretty much all of my predecessors here from the delegation as delegation directors. Todd, Ed Chase, Vicki Nolan, Christine Shaw. It's an incredible way to see how the function of the delegation has really been a platform to take us to our further positions in legislative affairs. So someone asked me recently to help them understand what the significance is of having a Palm Beach County legislative delegation. Well, while our senators and representatives introduce and vote on legislation representing the constituency of the respective district and the state as a whole, as a delegation for Palm Beach County, they can also introduce bills that are specific and unique to the local area for consideration in Tallahassee. These are also called local bills. Many of you have probably been at a delegation meeting where you've heard these local bills presented. Also, the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation does joint outreach to hear from the Palm Beach County constituents on extremely key issues. It is now an honor and a privilege to introduce our distinguished guest this morning. We have several members of our Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation with us today, and we certainly appreciate them taking the time to be with us this morning, and many of their legislative staff. At this time, I would like to introduce or invite Senator Bobby Powell, Senator Lori Berman, Representative Mike Caruso, Representative Emily Schultzberg, Representative Omar Hardy, and Representative Kelly Skidmore. Please come to the stage. Welcome. Sure. Senator, come on. Senator, so we can do Senator Powell. There we go. Sit, relax. So first, I want to introduce you all to Senator Bobby Powell with District 30. His exemplary work in the legislature has won him lots of accolades, including those from the Florida Association of Counties, the Board of County Commissioners, and the Florida League of Cities. He is also a member of the Nominating Council for the State Public Service Commission, which regulates utility companies throughout the state. Senator Powell also serves as the chair of the Florida Legislative Black Caucus. He has a reputation for always being there for his constituents and prides himself on leading a life of service. Senator Powell, it is a pleasure to have you here. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. I need to get up, or?
No, you don't have to. You can sit there and relax and, you know.
All right, perfect. We'll sit here, everybody. How's everybody doing? Of course, I am State Senator Bobby Powell. I represent Senate District 30 in Palm Beach County. I am from originally the city of Riviera Beach. It's good that a little boy from Riviera Beach can have the opportunity to go and serve in the state Senate. As a matter of fact, I am the first person from the city of Riviera Beach to serve in the state Senate, and actually the first African-American from Palm Beach County to actually serve in the Senate, so I'm glad to be here with you all. I want to thank Rachel for that wonderful introduction. Before I get started and go a little too far, let me just make sure I recognize who's also here. Trevor Fleming from Congresswoman Frankel's office. Trevor, raise your hand. And ladies and gentlemen, from the team GTJD, means get the job done. With us here this morning, one of my legislative assistants, I have three, Dr. Christopher Stubbs. So I'll get right into it. I feel comfortable here, Rachel. It's kind of like, right, it's the Oprah couch. And there's a story behind the Oprah couch. You'll have to talk to me personally to find out, because this is where, if you have the opportunity to sit down with Senator Powell, I can evoke your emotions, where either you'll be laughing or you'll be crying, but we're gonna have some understanding. So, before we get started, I'll tell you a little bit. This session was one of the most difficult sessions that we had to go through. I'm glad to see over 170 people in the room today. Nobody's masked up, although I do have my Senate mask somewhere with my Senate emblem on it, but I've had the vaccine. Many of us have had the vaccine. Important PSA right now. If you know people who have not been vaccinated but would like to be vaccinated, Dr. Marciano, council member from Palm Beach Gardens, former mayor of Palm Beach Gardens, just told us that they have an event today for people to be vaccinated. It's very important. People are still dying from COVID-19, and this new Delta variant is very, very dangerous. It's got everybody on edge. So people are now starting to mask back up. And here in the state of Florida, with over 10 million people being vaccinated, it's much more than 10 million now, the numbers for people in the black community is still less than 1 million people. So we need to make sure that people are being vaccinated and taken care of, because now it's available to everybody, and it's very, very important that we're outside, but we need to make sure everybody can come outside. This year, we were in session. People could not come into the Senate. So Lori and I Senator Berman and I, had to look at people on a screen from the Civic Center. The hard part about the Civic Center is, like right now, I got the microphone, and if our esteemed panel host wants me to stop, she'll say, Bobby, Senator, wrap it up. And I can keep talking, and I'll just be like, so, but this year in Tallahassee, that can happen normally. The chair will say, okay, time's up, and the person will keep talking until somebody moves that person. This year, it was real bad in the rules committee. A person would be talking and the chair would say, okay, time's up. And the person would say, well, I want to get this, boom, she hits the button. Person disappears. Off the screen they go, right? So that made it difficult because it wasn't real, right? You just hit a button and get rid of anybody who's in your face. And sometimes I would speak up and be like, hey, Chair, can you bring that person back? I really wanted to hear what they have to say. And you get this look like, yeah, I want to hear what they had to say because, this process is a public process, public participation. And for us, I am an urban planner, an AICP certified urban planner, the only one in the legislature. And I believe that the number one goal of a planner is to serve the public interest. The number one goal of elected officials should also be to serve the public interest, right? And I want to hear what everyone has to say. We are not going to agree 100% of the time. If you agree with me 100% of the time, something is wrong with you, right? So for me, I want to hear your dialogue, your differences. I want to see where we can, push and pull and where I can change and maybe get you to change or not. But that's what the process is. And this year was very, very difficult. Now for me, the things that are important, affordable housing, economic development, the opportunity to close what we call the wealth gap, opportunities to work with people to change our communities. Local government preemptions were bad this year, and I wanted to fight against every last one of them, which I did. Some of them still passed. But for me, it comes down to protecting the local governments, protecting the people at this level, and also making sure that we build opportunities for people to be able to live here in the state of Florida. The fact that housing is around $500,000 in Palm Beach County to be able to buy a house is ridiculous. Most people can't afford that. So of course you're gonna have a wealth gap. One asset that you can pass along to your family and your children is a house. If a person right now rents in Palm Beach County for a 2-bedroom, I heard someone say the other day, was $1,800. Most of us, even those of us who are elected with 2 jobs, right? My elected position and my planning position, I couldn't afford to pay $1,800 for a 2-bedroom. It's ridiculous, but people are paying it. And because of that, they're struggling. If you're paying more than 30% of your income for housing, you are not living in an affordable situation. With that being said, I don't want to monopolize everybody's time. Welcome to the Oprah Couch. I am Bobby Powell.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Powell. And I really appreciate the fact that each of you, even at the delegation meetings, you recognize your staff because the staff really are what makes the engine roll on and really truly makes members successful. So thank you very much for all that you all do. So next on our panel, we have Senator Lori Berman, District 31. Senator Berman has been effective at achieving results in the legislature. Lori served in the Florida House of Representatives from 2010 to 2018. She was then elected to the Florida Senate in April of 2018 and subsequently re-elected in November of 2020. She currently serves as the Democratic Caucus's policy chair and was appointed to serve on the following committees for the 2020-2022 term: Appropriations Subcommittee on Agriculture, Environment, and General Government, Education, Transportation, Finance and Tax, and Ethics and Elections. Lori has fought tirelessly to expand quality and access to health care, invest in renewable energy and environmental preservation. She helps to strengthen our public education system and secure equitable rights and opportunities for women in Florida. Senator Berman, it is truly a pleasure to have you here, and we welcome you. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. It's always hard to follow Senator Powell, so I'll do my best. I'm not as funny as he is. We always joke in Tallahassee that he's probably one of our funniest senators. He's really got a great sense of humor, and he's very effective because he's able to use his humor effectively. So like Rachel said, I represent District 31, which is central Palm Beach, so it goes from Delray pretty much to the Lake Worth border. But I'm always happy to come up here and see so many friends that are here in the North Palm Beach County Chamber, and it's always great to have an opportunity to reconnect with you. Like Senator Powell said, it was a very, very tough session because of COVID. People were not allowed in. Things got pushed through without a lot of the feedback from the public that we would normally have. The good news was when we started, we thought the budget was going to be horrendous. We thought there were going to be cuts all over the place. But because we got money from the federal government, $10 billion, in the end we did a very, very high budget of over $100 billion. So we were able to get a lot of money for Palm Beach County for different projects here, and that was really encouraging to see that we were able to bring back that kind of money. I want to commend the Realtors. I am so happy that they are bringing a constitutional amendment to assure that the Sadowsky Fund is not raided every year. We talk about affordable housing in Tallahassee all the time, and we know how important it is, and it's not just Palm Beach County, it's a statewide issue. And this year we passed a bill that had good and bad in it having to do with Sadowsky, and I think the Realtors action is the right response. What the bill said is we will fund Sadowsky for $100 million or $200 million, I believe, and then the rest of the money will go toward resiliency and environmental issues, which are really great issues, but I don't think that they have to compete against each other. We shouldn't have set them up as competing against each other. We should be funding both of those issues. So the Realtors, you'll probably see they're doing a constitutional amendment campaign, and let's all support it because I think it's really good. The other big troubling issue that we tried to address in Tallahassee for you as the business community was property insurance rates. As you all know, they're going through the roof. We did pass a bill. It's already been challenged in court, and some of it's already being overruled. One part of the bill had to do with what roofers are allowed to do in terms of soliciting people, and right now there's a stay on that part of the bill. So not sure how it's all going to play out, but know that we up in Tallahassee are, listening to your concerns, listening to the business community, listening to our constituents, and we're trying to figure out solutions for problems that are not easy. If they were easy, they would have been done a long time ago. So we're working really hard on your behalf, and I'm happy to be here with you and answer questions, and I see my time's up, so I don't want to get pulled off the Oprah couch, so thank you.
You're good. Thank you, Senator Berman. Next, we have Representative Mike Caruso, District 89. Representative Caruso is deeply entrenched in the community both personally and professionally. In addition to his professional work as a CPA, he is the Vice President of the Finance and Facilities and Justice Appropriations Subcommittees. He also sits on the Health and Human Services Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, and the Post-Secondary Education and Lifelong Learning Subcommittees. Representative Caruso understands that lasting change can only come from increased communication and a willingness to get things done. Representative Caruso, thank you for being here. Glad to have you part of this conversation. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Rachel, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here, great to be back. I'm wondering, with Rachel here and with Todd here, who's watching Baby Bon Laren? Grandma, good. Okay. And before I get started, Representative Rick Roth sends his best wishes. He's up in South Carolina, his son getting married, and so he couldn't make it here today, but he asked me to say hi to you. And it is tough to follow Senator Powell on the Powell couch. And I thought he was going to pull out a book and start promoting his latest book, I want to introduce my legislative aide, Walter Boykus. Stand up, Walter. Say hi. This year has been complete, as Senator Berman said and Senator Powell said, and we'll all say, this year was just weird. It was. Nobody was allowed in the Capitol, and things just didn't operate the same, and it wasn't as much fun as it usually is. I like the hysteria, the chaos, and and just always, running in. You turn a corner, you don't know how many people you're going to knock down, and everybody that's been up to the Capitol knows what I'm talking about. But this year was a little strange back home. We dealt with unemployment, and we got thousands of people. My staff and myself worked hard to get thousands of individuals who are in a panic to get their unemployment benefits. And we all know we had to go on the computer, and that was the way to access it. And so many people had trouble, and we were fortunate to be able to get thousands of people their benefits. Vaccines, that was another thing that we don't normally do. And so we were busy getting, we probably got about 1,000 people their appointment for vaccines. If you can imagine, 85-year-old, individual, husband and wife at home, and they're going on the computer because at 6 o'clock you can get your vaccine appointment. And so they get up early and they have their coffee and they go on the computer and they boot up, and that's a challenge just in itself, okay, to get on the computer at that age. And although some of them I know are much better skilled at the computer than I. And then they get on and it locks up. And they go back on and it locks up. And they go back on and it locks up, and they're at their wits' end. And I was just so excited and honored to be able to help them get an appointment. We got about 1,000 people their appointments. This year, we dealt with food distributions, PPE distribution, mortgage, rental, and utility assistance. And so this year was different than, the normal things we do, like getting people passports and things like that. So this year was a little different. One of the bills I wanted to mention was we did HB 15, the internet sales tax bill. And it brought the internet businesses in line with our brick and mortar businesses that are, just struggled through COVID-19. And so I was happy to see that bill go through. It put them on parity with the brick and mortar businesses, and I think that's great. And what it does is also with that money, about $1.4 billion that's going to come in this next year. $1.4 billion from the internet sales tax. First, it's going to restore the reemployment fund, or also formerly known as the unemployment fund. Those rates were about to be a multiple of 4 times what they currently are. They were going to go to 4 times as much because of the internet sales tax. They won't be. And once we restore the trust fund for unemployment, we're going to then use it to reduce the commercial sales tax on commercial real estate from current 5.5% down to 2%. And I think that's a huge deal. It's going to further help our businesses. And so I was excited to support that bill. Let's see, another one thing I did. My district runs from from Boca Raton, Deerfield border, all the way to Singer Island. It's about 37 miles along the intercoastal and the ocean. And I'm honored to serve that district and to serve all of Palm Beach County, be part of the delegation. And we've got a lot to do this year coming up, and I'm looking forward to getting to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Caruso. So next we have Representative Emily Schultzberg, District 91. Emily's call to service began after losing her twin sister in a horrible car accident. Emily and her family created the Dory Schultzberg Foundation in honor of her sister, and they've been advocating for stronger traffic safety laws for over 20 years. Representative Schultzberg was first elected to the Florida House in 2016 and was subsequently reelected in 2018, succeeding her father, Representative Irv Schultzberg. Emily is the current Democratic ranking member for the Government Operations and Tourism, Infrastructure and Energy subcommittees. She also sits on the Commerce Committee, Rules Committee, Ways and Means Committee, and the Civil Justice and Property Rights subcommittees. Representative Schultzberg, it's a pleasure to have you here. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Rachel. I represent House District 91, which is Boca, Delray, and Boynton Beach, from Military Trail west to the Turnpike. And it's probably one of the farthest districts in Palm Beach County from the northern part of the county, but it's always a pleasure to be here with the Chamber, and wonderful to see Rachel moderating this event. I want to talk a little bit. I'm also the co-chair of the Women's Legislative Caucus and the co-chair of the Jewish Legislative Caucus. One of the priorities that, coming this session has been COVID, and we've had an incredible amount of constituent services. We've really had to bulk up our constituent services. We've, just as Representative Caruso said, we had thousands of people contacting the office needing help with DEO assistance. And a lot of the issues centered around the crashing of the systems. And so we did, in government operations, we did try to take steps to address some of those issues. We passed legislation putting vendors that weren't meeting certain requirements of the contract with the state and creating this do not vendor list. So hopefully that could try to rectify some of those issues that we were having with the vendors for the Connect system that we had. And it really was a difficult session because for the first time, we really didn't have members of the public in our offices. We didn't have you guys coming up and talking to us. We had nobody was really allowed into the building. And although on the Senate side, they did have the people, the public testifying from the Civic Center, the House side did allow some public testimony in a limited fashion. But it really was more difficult considering it. And they did require us once a week to get two COVID tests in the beginning of each committee week and in the beginning of each week during session. So it was pretty demanding, and they did have a lot of protocols in place to keep to keep us safe. Although, with that said, I did manage to pass one important piece of legislation, Gale's Law, and I'm not sure if many of you have heard about it. It's House Bill 673, and it's named after Gail. Gail is a resident of Orlando who was viciously sexually assaulted, and she did what most victims of sexual assault do. She called the police, reported it, and went and took a forensic exam. And she did that forensic exam thinking that they were going to use that evidence to find her attacker. And what happened was it sat on a shelf for over 30 years untested. And turned out they had went back, and about last year they tested it, and her attacker was a serial rapist who had been incarcerated for the last decade. And so she had spent sleepless nights thinking that he was going to come back and get her, and she was afraid to walk the streets. All the while, little did she know, he had been incarcerated. So what Gale's Law does, it requires Florida Department of Law Enforcement to create and maintain a statewide database tracking sexual assault kits through the process, and requires them to give access to the victim. So the victim will be able to track their sexual assault kits throughout that process. And Gail was phenomenal. She came to Tallahassee every committee meeting testifying her heart out until it passed. And so this was really a big deal for Gail and for so many other victims of sexual assault. It really was. And we also did some other legislation in that area to benefit survivors. We had a bill just requiring more sexual assault response teams throughout our state, and also requires trauma-informed training for law enforcement officers dealing with victims. So we've had some pretty good successes. One other thing I'd like to mention is we went back up for special session to address the gaming compact. So come October 15th, we can expect to see online sports betting hosted by the Seminoles, and some additional crap games at the Seminole location, and possible Las Vegas-style resorts at the Seminoles. So these are some things to look forward to. I'm out of time, but look forward to this panel.
Thank you, Representative Schultzberg. Now we have Representative Omar Hardy, District 88. Representative Hardy was elected to the Florida House of Representatives in November of 2020. He filed several legislative proposals to reform policing. House Bill 1531, one of Representative Hardy's 3 police reform proposals, was recognized by the Appeal.org as the most expansive police reform proposal in the country. Omari currently serves on the board of directors for the Housing Leadership Council of Palm Beach County and as second vice president of the Palm Beach County Caucus of Black Elected Officials, where he has worked to build consensus among local elected officials to reform policing in Palm Beach County. Representative Hardy, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, I'm Omar Hardy. I represent District 88 in the Florida House of Representatives. District 88 goes from South County to North County. It starts in Delray, goes all the way up through Boynton Beach, Lantana, Lake Worth, West Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, all the way up to Lake Park. It's shaped a little bit like a dumbbell, and that is the magic of gerrymandering. So this was my first legislative session, and for me it was an accelerated academy in public service, those committee weeks, those 60 days. It was also a challenge. You know, I grew up the son of two teachers, one of whom taught history, and growing up reading my mom's, textbooks for her students, you're reading the history of the country, which because we have, a pretty awesome country here, our history is one of people of high ideals triumphing over folks whose ideals are not quite so high. And these are folks of tremendous moral conviction who did the right thing and compromised when necessary. The legislature is a little different. The most important principle there is power. And I wish that I could call some of my colleagues, in particular in the leadership, ideologues, and I don't mean that in a negative sense, because to be an ideologue says that you have an ideology. It says that you have a philosophy. And from that philosophy, there are a number of policy positions you might imply, right? But in Tallahassee, it's not quite that way. And it can be difficult for, folks who come in expecting conservatives to act like conservatives and bleeding heart liberals such as myself to act like liberals. It's a little more challenging than that. And so for me, I learned quite a lot. My interests with respect to state matters are the intersection of transportation, land use, and housing affordability, which matters to a lot of people in Palm Beach County. Senator Powell spoke about how unaffordable housing is in this county, and it's not just here in Palm Beach County, it's throughout South Florida, it's throughout the I-4 corridor, it's really throughout the state, because we have 1,000 people a day moving to the state of Florida, and we're not building nearly enough housing. I mean, from 2010 to 2020, we gained 66,000 households in Palm Beach County. We built just under, built or permitted just under 45,000 housing units during that period. That's not enough. We're not keeping pace with the demand here. And a lot of that has to do with local land use policy, and some of that was targeted by the legislature, and I expect more of that to be done. I think, the most important thing that we can do for housing is, make sure that Sadowsky is fully funded. I believe in being a good steward of public funds, and Sadowsky is a trust fund. That means you should be able to trust the legislature to fund it. But nearly every year since 2003, the legislature has swept a good portion of those funds. The one year that they did not, they were vetoed, and then the following year, which was this past legislative session, the leadership came up with a bright idea. We've been playing Who Stole the Cookies from the Cookie Jar for the past 17 years, and the leadership said, you know what, we can't be accused of stealing the cookies out of the cookie jar if we don't allow the cookies to go in there to begin with. And that's what they did. They cut in half the amount of money that went into that Sadowsky Trust Fund and called that a good thing for Floridians and working class people going forward. I'm very happy that the Realtors are moving ahead with a constitutional amendment. It's what is needed, and I wish that the folks in our legislature who believe in small government showed a little more restraint with respect to this issue. So I appreciate y'all for bringing us together, and I look forward to engaging in what I think will be a lively discussion.
Thank you, Representative Hardy. Lastly but not leastly, we have Representative Kelly Skidmore, District 81. We're so glad to have you back in the legislature. Representative Skidmore has 14 years of legislative experience in Tallahassee, serving Palm Beach County for 4 years in the State House from 2006 to 2010, and working as a legislative aide to Ron Klein in the House and Senate for 10 years prior to that. Representative Skidmore currently serves in the Health and Human Services Committee, Professions and Public Health Subcommittee, Government Ops Subcommittee, Healthcare Appropriations Subcommittee, and the Tourism, Infrastructure, and Energy Subcommittee. Recently, she has taken on the role of CEO of the Palm Beach County Medical Society. Representative Skidmore, thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Rachel. You had quite the introduction yourself when you were introduced, but the one thing that they didn't mention was the most important job, and that is mother of L. So my most important job is mother to Mary Alice, and those of you who have known me, specifically Todd and Ed, and maybe Mark and Marcy, that is something that we all take very seriously, Mary Alice. So it's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Kelly Skidmore. I represent District 81. That starts west of the Turnpike in Boca Raton, takes in Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, Lake Worth, a little bit of Wellington, and then all of the Glades, Pahokee, Belglade, and South Bay. For those of you who have not gone out and visited Belglade or Pahokee or South Bay, I certainly encourage you to do so. It's a beautiful place to visit. My colleagues have discussed a lot of the legislation and the difficulties that we experienced in Tallahassee, and I am not actually mocking Senator Powell and leaning in. If I sit back, my feet won't touch the ground and I'll look like Edith Ann. So for those of you who know who Edith Ann is, it's been a pleasure to serve with Representative Schultzberg. She's the ranking Democrat on 2 committees I serve with. I'm a sweet mate with Representative Hardy. We sit right next to each other on the floor, and Representative Caruso and I have worked on some contentious legislation and come to some conclusions. Senator Berman and I also sponsored legislation together that passed and was signed by the governor, which doesn't happen often for a freshman Democrat. So I was pretty excited to pass legislation that allows parents to retain their child for 1 year in school if they felt that they were a victim of COVID slide. So kids who did not do as well in the virtual online classroom, parents typically don't have input as to whether or not that child can be retained. So that was some good legislation we worked on with the Department of Education. Lots of times, the legislation we pass is not contentious. We pass hundreds of bills, and a lot of them are unanimous. And then there are the few that really sort of get some of us setting our hair on fire. Representative Hardy would do that if he could, but he does it in a different way. And it's been fun to watch him, as he goes through this process. One of the things that I kind of do is for my freshman colleagues is help them with the rules. So quite often when he stands up and holds his microphone, the first thing he's about to just roll right into debate, and the first thing I say under my breath is, "Thank you, Mr. Speaker," because you're supposed to thank the speaker for recognizing you. So these little things are helpful. We have 17 Democratic freshmen. And I am just thrilled to be a part of that group as we learn and grow and represent and serve the public in a very difficult time. COVID is still with us, very much so. School will be starting soon, and there's a whole nother set of concerns involved with that, and I've gotten the hook. So thank you all for being here this morning. I'm glad to be with you and looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Representative Skidmore. So I know we have a couple minutes. Bianca in the back has a microphone for anyone who would like to ask a question. Just raise your hand and she can come to you.
Hi, my name is Kathy McGuire, and I have a question about when the voters of Florida pass a law and the legislature or the governor decides to ignore it, what can be done about that? And you know what I'm talking about, there's several. Thank you.
So, Rep. Hardy wants to go in. So one of the things I'll tell you is, and you saw me ask Senator Berman first, you want it? We got to be very careful. I don't want to scorch the earth. Several things happen, right? The people have spoken. What happens in Tallahassee, and I've grilled some of my colleagues about this with regard to legislation. This year, we tried to make it more restrictive for people to even put things on the ballot. We've tried to raise the threshold from the percentage of people that it takes to get a ballot initiative to be on the ballot to even what it takes to pass, right? Right now it passes at what, 60%? The idea was to move that threshold to 66%. So we get elected, we represent you, and as I said earlier, public participation. What I try to do is interact with people. Sometimes we go to Tallahassee, and you can figure this out. You walk on some floors, all of the doors are open. That means we have an open door policy. You walk on other floors, all of the doors are closed. Even though they're unlocked, that means you first have to go through a barrier to get to the person who you elected to represent you. So it's all about interpretation. What we interpret in the real world to be the reasons we put things on the ballot as initiatives to pass, you go to fantasy world, which is Tallahassee, and the interpretation is completely different. A lot of times, the things that we pass here, one of the things was the restoration of rights. We've done that. We know what the intention was. The legislature took that in a different manner, and the reason I knew they would is because we as a legislative body have pushed that many years before it became a ballot initiative. So the only thing that you can do when you see that the legislators who are in control change the meaning of any initiative that you've put forth is to change the people who are changing the meaning. Meaning, if you can't change the people around you, you gotta change the people around you. You gotta vote them out, and you gotta make sure that you're diligent, you're passionate and committed to seeing what happens. Because we live in a world as elected people where we think, I can do this today. Everybody's gonna forget about it tomorrow. I'll say something nice, everybody will still vote for me. But you have to have a long-standing memory of all the things that they did that were wrong, and the cost has to outweigh the benefit at all times.
Thank you, Senator.
So when I was a young law student, I had the privilege of serving in the House of Representatives as an intern. And for a year, I served under a mentor, an elected official from Miami, who taught me pretty much everything I know about ethics. And that man was Bill Sadowsky. The Sadowsky Fund is in his honor. Affordable housing is a big problem in Florida. It's a big problem in the wealth gap. It's a big problem for business. It's a big, big problem. And all I would say is that Board of Realtors trying to pass a constitutional amendment to cause that fund not to be rated is going to run against the problems we just talked about, where you pass the constitutional amendment or you have a voter referendum and it gets distorted up in Tallahassee. And that goes to the question of power, which was also been discussed today. So my question is this. On that particular problem with the Sadowsky Fund being rated, my understanding is it has to do with the tension between the counties that have a lot of housing problems and the counties that don't. Is that really where the tension's coming from, that's not allowing this to be successfully used, this fund to be successfully used? Can anybody answer that?
Representative Hardy. Go
Is
ahead.
it-
Or Representative Caruso?
Yeah, I don't know who's asking for it, but, okay, I'll go. It's a great question. Is it about power? Is it about a lack of concern over affordable housing? You know, when we go up there and we do the budget, well, let me first start out by saying, you know, the only Republican sitting up here, I went up to Tallahassee 3 years ago with Al Jaquette, your predecessor. He asked me at a function one morning that we were at, on a public stage like this, he says, so where do you stand on Sadowsky? And I say, I think it's been a crime that we've rated Sadowsky Fund for 30 years. And he says, you're saying that public? I said, will you go up there to fight for Sadowsky? I said, yeah. And I went up there. And so, you know, my first year we funded, I think, $245 million or something like that. And then last year we funded the whole, 2 years ago, we funded the whole thing. and then it got vetoed because of COVID and all that stuff coming in. It's always seemed like Sadowsky's the first place we go to raid $400 million. And it's wrong, and we've got to stop it. I think the reason it's been raided is it's just an easy place to go to get $400 million. And you know, to fund other things that they find to be more important. And they, you know, kick this can down the road 1 year at a time for 30 years. This bill, I think leadership finally said, okay, it's a hot issue, what are we going to do about it? And I looked at it, you know, a lot of us look at it, you can look at it two ways, let's say. You can look at it and say, okay, Sadowsky, the affordable housing is going to get $200 million less than it really should, okay, because we're guaranteeing it that they get half of it now. And you can't rate it. You can't rate it. So it'll get about $200 million. The other way to look at it is they're stealing $200 million of it. We've been stealing 400, all of it, for 30 years. And so I supported the bill because now it guaranteed that we're going to get at least $200 million to go to affordable housing. And I know a lot of, I don't know who supported it, who didn't, but that's the way I looked at it. I'd rather have half of something than 100% of nothing. And then I figured, and then once we got half as a guarantee in our pocket, let's go back afterwards and then fight for the other half. And I'm happy to see the Realtors fighting for the other half now. But it's good to know that we're going to have $200 million guaranteed in our pocket for affordable housing, and now we fight for the other half. And so that's the way I looked at it. And that's the way I hope that, you know, it'll help you understand it a little better.
Thank you, Representative Caruso. Real quick, Representative Hardy.
Thank you. Now, look, I think it's 100% about power, and it's about who has power and who doesn't, and it's about the fact that many folks in the legislature are insulated from public opinion. And I think at the core of this issue, there's a policy disagreement, but there's really a problem with how democracy works in this state. You have folks who are not really concerned about what the average Floridian is concerned about because they're in these gerrymandered districts. We have restrictive voting legislation that got passed that will likely shave points in some of these close contests, whether they be statewide contests or legislative ones. And then you have, and speaking to the other question, not only does the legislature largely ignore, to the extent that they can, constitutional amendments when they're passed, but the legislature is making it more difficult for citizens to amend the Constitution, which is why I'm so glad that the Realtors moved quickly after this legislative session for this constitutional amendment. And so, you know, I just think that we have a problem. All these policy issues that we know to be a concern are really symptoms of a larger problem, and we have to address that larger problem before anything else gets better.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Berman, did you want to say a quick?
Sure. I don't think it's a big city or big county, small county issue. It's just that that's a really easy pot of money to go after, and it's a big pot of money, so it's a lot easier to go after it. One thing I do want to say, and it goes back to the last question too, is remember we do have separation of power, and as a member of the legal part, so we do bring. There are lawsuits brought when we pass these ballot initiatives and then they're not used properly. Unfortunately, the courts have not been as strong as I'd like to see in those cases, but there is a check and balance, hopefully. So when the legislature goes beyond its authority, hopefully the judiciary will come in and address those issues also.
Thank you, Senator. I believe we have time for one really, really quick question. Really quick.
This will be so quick. Good morning. First, thank you to Representatives Schultzberg and Caruso for House Bill 701. That was really important to us at the Hanley Foundation and those who work in the behavioral health care field. So this year, because of the pandemic, and last year, we saw unprecedented numbers of overdose deaths and opioid abuse here in Palm Beach County, as well as just across the nation. So I wanted to know what, if any, initiatives are being put in place, what plans do we have for 2022 just to combat this epidemic? Thank you.
Representative Skidmore?
Thank you. It is a serious issue, and we've had a huge spike in the state. What I think part of our perspective is that we need to shift is that folks who are substance use, have a substance use disorder, are often looked upon as having a moral failure or an ethical lapse, as opposed to a medical condition called addiction. And so we have to stop that cycle, and we have to shift that stigma away from the person in order to address this issue. In 2009, I sponsored the legislation that created the prescription drug monitoring program because we were in desperate need of help with 9 people a day dying in the state of Florida from pills that they received from the pill mills in the state of Florida. And that was a thing that we needed to do, but it pushed the balloon, right? And then the folks who couldn't get the drugs through the pill mills went to the street, and heroin then became more used. And now fentanyl is a big part of all of that. And that, of course, is coming, a lot of that is coming from Mexico. So I applaud the governor for his efforts to stop the influx of fentanyl. But we have $400 million that we're getting from the federal government for Medicaid that the state of Florida is going to put in reserve. $400 million. That sounds like another number that we talked about a minute ago. $400 million for Medicaid. We rank 48th in the state for funding of mental health and substance abuse disorders. So you guys tell me where the priority is for the leadership in the state of Florida when we already have $6 billion in reserve and we're gonna keep $400 million away from Medicaid. So if there's a message that you want to send to the leadership, and this is important, all of us are here, but there's only a few that are in leadership. If you want to send a message to the leadership of the legislature, it is that that $400 million needs to go where it belongs, and that is to the Medicaid program for the state of Florida.
Thank you, Representative Skidmore. So that's all the time we have for today. I do want to thank you all for being here. I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're a little over, but I do want to encourage any of you to attend the Government Affairs Committee, which happens once a month. It's a great opportunity to hear from your local elected officials, as well as our speaker each month. Please reach out to the Chamber for more information on how to get involved. Noelle, I'm going to hand it back to you.
All right, let's give Rachel another big round of applause. It is never easy moderating a conversation like this, especially on stage in front of a lot of people. So great job, Rachel. Really proud of you. So before we end today, I want to tell you a little bit about a few of our upcoming events. Looking ahead, our next Business Before Hours is going to be held next month on Wednesday, August 18th at 7:15 a.m. at the Embassy Suites in Palm Beach Gardens. Our keynote speaker is going to be Dr. Fanoy. It's going to be our back-to-school breakfast, so should be a very interesting breakfast with all the news that came out last week. Next Wednesday, July 28th, join us for a webinar with HBK, CPAs, and consultants to discuss President Biden's proposed tax legislation and important planning opportunities. You definitely don't want to miss that. And finally, don't forget, our annual Loggerhead Triathlon is back and in person, and it's almost sold out. The Tampa General Hospital Loggerhead Triathlon is going to be held on Saturday, August 28th, beginning at 7 a.m. And like I mentioned earlier, we already have over 500 people registered, so it is almost sold out. We are in desperate need of volunteers for that event. School credit is available, so send your kids over to volunteer. Please visit our website or speak to Alexis if you are interested in volunteering. On behalf of our fellow board members, thank you once again to today's sponsors, chamber members, and of course our legislators. You guys were amazing. Our region will continue to thrive because of your meaningful engagement in our communities and collaborative efforts to keep Palm Beach North, Florida's Prosperity Coast. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.